Another elector has now added their name to the list of those who pledge not to support Donald Trump on the 19th of this month when the Electoral College electors get together and actually choose who's going to be president. We had our fake little election where millions more people voted for Hillary Clinton. But Trump is set to become president unless enough of these electors choose not to. And some of them are calling themselves the Hamilton electors, and they're saying that they instead are going to rally around some other Republican alternative to Donald Trump. Now, in this case, we have Christopher Supran, who is saying that he is not going to cast his vote for Donald Trump, and he wrote an editorial explaining why in the New York Times. I'm going to read just a few short little excerpts from it. He says, "I do not think presidents-elect should be disqualified for policy disagreements. I do not think they should be disqualified because they won the Electoral College instead of the popular vote," which I think is a good reason why they might. But however, now I am asked to cast a vote on December 19th for someone who shows daily he is not qualified for the office. Electors of good, by the way, he goes on to list a number of extremely good reasons why Donald Trump is not qualified, so look that up on the New York Times. But in the sort of finale to it, he says, electors of conscience can still do the right thing for the good of the country. Presidential electors have the legal right and a constitutional duty to vote their conscience. I believe electors should unify behind a Republican alternative as an honorable and qualified man or woman such as Governor John Kasich of Ohio. I pray my fellow electors will do their job and join me in discovering who that person should be. 15 years ago, I swore an oath to defend my country and Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. On December 19th, I will do it again.
Okay, if you're wondering if he's a real Republican, so he praises George W. Bush, says, look, he was imperfect, but he was a patriot and did the right things for the country.
Wrong.
He talks about, yeah, well, that's who he is.
Wrong.
And he says he thinks America should be that shining city on a hill that Ronald Reagan talked about. And he mentions that, look, there was 50 Republican, former national security officials and foreign policy experts who said that Trump would, quote, be a dangerous president.
Yeah, we're seeing that.
The reason these guys are called Hamilton electors is because Alexander Hamilton wrote Federalist 68 that said part of the reason we have the Electoral College is in case the voters made a mistake and they've chosen someone who's in the pockets of a foreign government, investments abroad that he bases his decisions on, and that's in the Constitution, by the way, or he is dangerously incompetent, etc. We have this Electoral College. Now, the downside of an Electoral College is you don't get real democracy because even if you win the popular vote, you might lose. Kind of like what happened now. But the upside is, if you're a buffoon, the electors will make sure that you don't actually take office.
Yeah.
So this Republican is saying, yeah, let's do that. And I mean, if you like the Electoral College and you say, well, it doesn't matter who won in a democracy, it doesn't matter who won the popular vote, we have the Electoral College. That's true, but you forgot about the second half of the Electoral College and why it was created. You should read Federalist 68.
Yeah, and if your response to this sort of thing is to say, well, how dare they vote for someone else? He won. I don't know what definition of winning you have there then, because in the only alternative case, the popular vote, he's down by like 2.4 million votes now. In fact, it looks like there's a good chance that Hillary Clinton might end up getting more votes than Barack Obama did by the time this is done. And so if he didn't win the popular vote, and if under this case he doesn't win the Electoral College vote, what the hell did he win then? He won hypothetically an early stage of the Electoral College. Now look, we're going to go over a couple other angles of this. I will say that I personally am not 100% sold on people making the sort of unilateral decision to go against the popular vote. So if the Electoral College decided, you know what, screw the popular vote, we're going to vote for instead someone else that we want, that I think should not happen. But if what they end up doing is try to get the result of the Electoral College vote a little bit closer to the popular vote, I think there's a lot of good, not just pragmatic reasons for that to happen, but as they've pointed out, sort of philosophical, baked into the Constitution and the founding fathers' thoughts, reasons why they might do that. And if the Electoral College was set up to stop a crazy person from becoming president, which is one interpretation of why it did, it's not the only. I don't know, if it doesn't stop Donald Trump, then we should dispense with that idea, because clearly it's not capable of doing that. It has never had as clear-cut a case of a person who is not qualified to become president and is a unique danger to the continuation of America as a general concept and American democracy as it has functioned. He is that unique danger. And so if they are going to stop anyone, it is Donald Trump. It has never been anyone before. It will never be anyone as dangerous as Donald Trump.
So I'm not a big believer in the elites. And if you watch the Young Turks, you know that. So I'm against superdelegates. I'm against a system based on electors knowing better than the general population. But in this case, they're not saying they know better than the general population. The general population voted for Hillary Clinton. So we've got this catch-22 here for Trump supporters where, well, the point of the Electoral College is to sometimes to do this, to make sure a clown doesn't get into office. And if you don't like it, then you got the popular vote. So now, look, is it going to happen? Well, they're one down, 36 to go. They need 37 Republican electors to do this. And by the way, as I explained on the show yesterday, one option is they vote for who won the popular vote, and that's Hillary Clinton. And she becomes president, and she got over 2.5 million more votes than him, and it's perfectly logical, and we move forward. But likely they're Republicans, and they don't want to do that. So what they're saying is, no, Democrat electors, you all come to our side. Republican won the Electoral College. We're going to have a Republican president. We just don't want it to be this clown, so it's going to be Governor Kasich from Ohio. And could you get the Democratic electors to go, well, Kasich's better than Trump? And so, look, if you're upset by any of this kind of elitist stuff, I'm right there with you, brother.
Yeah.
Right? So let's just get rid of the goddamn Electoral College and decide this by a popular vote, which is what is known as a democracy.
Yeah.
Now, if in this unique circumstance you think, no, hey, man, Electoral College is Electoral College, that means the electors get to decide, well, then go to savedemocracy.org. They are pushing this idea, and they're saying, hey, look, on December 19th, you can go to all the different state capitals where all the electors go to their own state capitals to actually vote. And obviously before that, you could pressure them, et cetera. So I don't know where I fall out on that, but I do know a lot of people like this plan, and they want to push this forward. The place that I'm definite on is, for God's sake, let's end the Electoral College. Whoever gets more votes wins in a democracy. We're supposed to be the oldest, greatest, best democracy. What kind of a democracy do we have when 40% of our elections in this century have been invalidated, have gone against the popular will?
Yeah, I honestly feel like, I mean, there is the legislative plan to basically subvert the Electoral College without getting rid of it that we talked about. The 11 states and the District of Columbia have signed on for, where if they got enough states to agree to it, where they had 270 votes in the Electoral College, it wouldn't effectively exist. But only 11 states have signed on to it. All of them are blue states. I think that we need to heavily push for that, because I think that that is something that we can actually win on. People don't like this BS where the Electoral College ends up choosing. And honestly, the idea that every other Democratic president basically that wins ends up losing because they get it stolen from them, I mean, how can we have long-term progress if even when we choose a person, they don't end up winning? And we just see it happening time and time again. And honestly, it's starting to look systemically like we might expect this more in the future. If the states end up aligning in future elections the way they did now, I mean, the numbers are going to be shifted a little bit from state to state in terms in comparison to how they did now. But do we have any reason to believe that the 2.4 million vote lead that Hillary Clinton has now? I mean, what if a Democrat has a 3 million vote next? Is that going to be enough to overturn? We honestly don't know at this point.
Now, if you don't know this fact, this will enrage you. Do you know that Democrats got more votes for the presidency in this election? That you know, right? They got more votes in the House, and the Republicans have a solid lock on number of representatives in the House. And the Democrats also got more votes in the Senate, and the Republicans control the Senate. So in none of those three branches of our government, or two branches and two houses within one branch, do the Democrats control, even though they won more votes in every single one of those, in the House, the Senate, and the presidency. And we call this a democracy.
And I would probably add that were you to go down the line of how should the Supreme Court rule on this issue, how should they rule on this issue, country is a liberal country, but we're about to get a hardcore right-wing Supreme Court.
How do we get here? We got it by a rigged system, ironically.
Yeah.
And it's rigged by the powerful, not the powerless.
Yeah.
The Young Turks isn't just us, it's also you guys. You make this show possible, and we want to thank you for it, and we want to grow together. We want to be too strong. tytnetwork.com/join. Let's do it.